Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Tuesday, it's April 21st, 2026, and this is episode 325. I'm Carol, also known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, where spring has finally well and truly sprung. It's been a while. I did not intend for a whole month to go by between recordings, but life is life, and this is the first chance I've really had to sit down with decent light and a good block of time. So here I am. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're all doing well and that spring is springing in your neck of the woods, or of course, if you are in the southern hemisphere, that you are enjoying the cooler temperatures that fall brings. I have tons of things to show you today. I have 4 finished projects and several works in progress, including at least a couple that you have not seen before. Also some spinning and just one acquisition, that's not so bad. And of course, I'll catch you up a little bit on what's been going on around here since we last chatted. So if that sounds good to you, then grab yourself a beverage of choice and maybe a project to work on, and let's chat. So first up, I have a pair of socks. These are for my husband. I gave him the yarn for Christmas because I didn't have time to knit them before that. This yarn is Prolana Golden Socks Matterhorn, and the color is 450-10A. And if you see on some store websites, it's just called red/blue. So I knit these from the top down, 68 stitches, 2x2 rib, a traditional heel flap and gusset, which I did out of some leftover yarn that I had in my scraps. It's I never know how to say Schweepies. I know that's not how you say it. Invicta Extra in the red colorway, and I just thought that picked up the red in the sock yarn really well. And then a rounded toe. Sorry, I've got my window open because I'm enjoying the fresh air, but that does mean there'll be a little bit of ambient noise, and as you can probably hear, there's a siren somewhere. It's also gardening day here. The gardeners are in our complex today, so you might hear the odd noise from that. And the recycling truck just drove by, so we should be free of that noise now. I had to pause and start over when it came around the corner. Anyway, I called this pair of socks my experimental socks, and the reason I did that is because I was trying out the Addi Sock Wonder needles. They are a 10-inch circular needle. One tip is approximately 3 inches long, the other is about 2 inches long. I had tried 9-inch circulars a couple of different times, never really caught on to them, and I thought that I might enjoy the Sock Wonders just being a little bit easier to hold. So my plan was to knit the entire pair except for the heels and toes on these Sock Wonder needles. And I did knit both legs, entire legs on the needles, switched out to my favorite magic loop for doing the heels and the gussets. And then I went to switch back, but I was watching, I think we were watching curling or something, and I just found I couldn't really, they just weren't comfortable. They weren't as effortless as Magic Loop, which I can knit without looking, and it's just so instinctual and comfortable. And I thought, what am I trying to prove? I've given them a good shot. I prefer Magic Loop. I've tried several different methods of sock knitting. I keep coming back to Magic Loop. And I thought there's no shame in admitting that, and knitting's supposed to be fun. And so I did switch back to Magic Loop to finish the socks off, and they went much more quickly. I will hold on to my Sock Wonder needles. I have, I think it's a 2.25 millimeter and I think a 2 millimeter something like that. My most used sock knitting needle sizes. And I may decide I want them one day. Oh, there's an ambulance driving through our complex. I hope that's not what the siren was all about. Anyway, I just thought I will hang on to them. I could see them maybe being useful for doing color work, because then I wouldn't have the little looser stitches where the joins are on Magic Loop. But I've just decided, no, just go with what you love. So Cameron now has a new pair of socks that he can wear. Mind you, the weather's a little warmer, so I don't know how much wear they'll get this season, and they might get more definitely starting in the fall. But now I can, now that I've shown you, I can well and truly gift these to him. I really like this yarn. I just really like the colors, and I liked the patterns. I quite enjoyed knitting these up. I also have, so I'm reaching, I've got stuff all around me. I have another pair of socks. I started these, I think it was in January. These are the Crooner socks by Nancy Wheeler, who does the Knit Sip Happy podcast. I saw these during Advent when she released the pattern and fell in love with it immediately. And I had pictured knitting these up in a wintry colorway like the original ones. I think hers were like a icy blue and red in this section, and then these are meant to be snowflakes. But then I saw her on her podcast talking about this pattern, and she made a comment about how the snowflakes could also be flowers. And my mind immediately went to this yarn, which I bought when my husband and I were in Paris a couple of years ago. We went there to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary and my 60th birthday. And so I went stash diving for yarn scraps that would complement this yarn. The yarn is La Bien-Aimée, it's the Cashmerino base in the Tuileries colorway. And the Tuileries are gardens that you walk through leading up to the Louvre, which used to be the palace. And it just, we went there several times. We had lunch there a couple of times, and this is special yarn, brings back special memories. And I thought, what better socks to knit than to bring all the flowers and the sunshine to mind. So I'm gonna bring it closer. You start out with a little band of color up here, one by one cuff, and then you do these bands of flowers. Looking at it in the camera, it looked like this was thinner than this, but it's not, it's the same. And then you embroider as you knit each band of solid color. You pause and do the embroidery. And it's not a lazy daisy stitch, but it's sort of that idea. It's a little fiddly, I will not lie, and it definitely gets easier as you do it more often. You get to really recognize which stitches you need to come in and out of to make the pattern and what order to do the stitches. And Nancy does have a very helpful video tutorial that's linked through the pattern, which I found that really, really helped. But yeah, I love this bright yellow, because it's got all these little yellow pops in the yarn, and then the pale lavender color. So super duper happy. They look a little bit loose. They don't feel loose really on, but I think it's because this yellow yarn is a little bit heavier than the main yarn, and I think it just makes the socks flare out a little bit more, but on it feels okay. So there we have it, and I tweaked the pattern just slightly. Whenever you have stripes, you end up with little jogs, and so on the second sock I knit an extra row on the heel flap before beginning the heel flap in order to then place those joins, I guess, symmetrically. So I can wear the socks in like this on my feet, and the little jogs will be to the inside of my legs. Not that anyone's going to be looking that closely because A, I will have pants on, which will cover my socks, and B, who stares at your socks that closely anyway, but just one of those little things that the perfectionist in me felt like it was necessary. So yay, finished these two. And probably my two, well, definitely my two biggest finishes are my ice landscape shawls. And you have seen these for a while now. I've been plugging away on them. It's a pattern by Stephen West of West Knits, and this was part of this year's Hybrid Knit Along. And when I saw this shawl come up, probably on Ravelry, or maybe I watched a video, I can't remember, but I knew I wanted to knit this shawl. So I immediately went, first I went stash diving. It's always my default. What do I have that I could use? And then I went to the Stephen and Penelope online shop to see what color suggestions there were, see if I had things I could match up. And there were two color palettes that really stood out to me. One was called, and this was yarn that was put together by Stephen and Penelope, I think in the bicycle yarn, which is a Stephen West yarn, or maybe it's a Stephen and Penelope West yarn, I'm not sure, but, or Stephen and Penelope yarn, not sure, but there was one color palette called Geyser and another called Winter Jewels, and I couldn't afford to order both sets for sure. And then anyway, I ended up going on the Holst Garn website and putting together two similar color palettes out of the Super Soft base, and decided to knit them both. And so I was working on them concurrently. And if you've been watching for a while, you've seen the journey. It is not a small shawl. By the end of it, it's 8 feet wide. And by the time you're done, I think there's about 800 stitches that you're doing each row. So it's definitely a labor of love, and at times a little bit of a slog, but mostly not. There is an 8-color and a 4-color version. I did the 8-color versions, so you're constantly changing yarns, plus it has a variety of stitch patterns. So there's always another kind of target, another goal to get through, another stage that you can kind of check off the list. And so, considering how many stitches are in here, it actually didn't take too long if I think about all the knitting. So, all that said, let's take a look. So this is the Geyser color palette. So you start out with garter stitch stripes. You do a syncopated brioche section, and it really pops more now that it's blocked. More garter stitch stripes. I think this is just called, I don't know, something about weaving, or it's a woven section, something like that. So you do 2 repeats with the yarns sort of held opposite to where they are in the first time through. More garter stitch stripes. Mountains, this is the stitch pattern that really caught my eye when I first saw the shawl. They are worked using short row shaping. So you work across the one row in one color, but you're working each motif back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it takes a long time to finish a row, but when you do that and then knit back, you're done with that color. And finally, there is a rippled border if you choose to do it. This is where Stephen West gives you an option. If you want to do it smaller, you can omit the border, but to me, I just think it finishes it off really nicely. And there are I-cord edges all along the edge, and then also at the bottom. So it's finished off really nicely. Now, I will say, if I was to knit this again, which obviously two is enough, and I'll show this all to you in one fell swoop in a second. When you reach this section down here, you stop doing yarn overs at the beginning and you just increase. And I would have preferred no yarn overs in this section, simply because without yarn overs, it's easier to weave your ends in as you go. I always find when I've got yarn overs at the beginning, it's hard to hide that end as you weave it in, so it's a lot more work after the fact. So that would be my recommendation. If you were to knit this and you want to weave your ends in as you go, I would change those yarn overs to make ones the way it is later on in the pattern. I'm not sure why it changed. Anyway, why don't I slide my chair back a little so you can see it all, or almost all of it, in one look. Oh boy, I gotta go back further. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. While I'm at it, I'm gonna grab the Winter Jewels color palette and show it to you. Let me bring my chair back, whoops. And I'll show it to you more closely in sections. I am sure this color palette is not everyone's cup of tea. I love my jewel tones. It's actually, you can see some of these colors in the top that I'm wearing. And while I would say that the Geyser palette is probably more reminiscent of Iceland, I do also love this color palette very much. So, done, done, done. Now, my sister who lives in Toronto, it's her birthday next week. And she's been to Iceland a couple of times and she loves it. And she is coming out with her husband for a holiday in June, and I'm gonna let her choose which of those shawls she prefers. And that'll be her birthday gift. And then I'm gonna keep the other one. Now, as I've said many times, I don't really wear shawls so much outside the house. I'll wear little shawlettes as scarves, but shawls like this to me are just meant to wrap up in on a chilly morning or a chilly evening or a chilly afternoon for that matter. And so this is just something that'll live in my house, and it's nice and big. I can picture nights when I can't sleep and I end up getting up and reading for a while or whatever, knitting maybe. I can see myself grabbing that shawl and being nice and cozy. So I do look forward to using it, but it probably won't be until next fall or winter, because it's just not that cold anymore here. I have my spring cup here. I got this from David's Tea a number of years ago, and I've been using it a lot. It's a little it's not hot, put it that way. I might go and zap that in a few minutes. All right, maybe I'll do that now and have a couple of hot sips of it, and then I'll come back and show you my works in progress. Even though I referenced my sweater earlier, I forgot to tell you what it's called. This is Etta by Allison Green. It is a Barocco pattern, and I knitted up in the suggested yarn, which is Summer Sesame. I saw this knit up as a store sample in our local yarn shop and decided to knit one for myself just about 3 years ago. Even though it's a worsted weight yarn, it's quite drapey, quite light. I know it has some cotton in it, so it is just perfect for warmer weather. As you can see, it's a circular yoke design with the increases done along this lace pattern, and then it's just plain from there out. So I've worn this quite a bit, and keep thinking I should make another one out of a different yarn, maybe even just a plain yarn this time. All right, works in progress. So now that the ice landscape shawls are out of the way, I have been paying more attention to the Unwinding Hours shawl that I started earlier this year. That is by Chrissy Prang of Left Side Knits, and I am knitting it from this hand spun that I spun from Fiber Nymph Dye Works Mixed BFL in the This Day We Fight colorway. So I had 2 braids of it, and I spun it as a fractal. So I believe if I remember correctly, it's been a while, I think I took 1 braid and more or less just spun it from end to end. I might have split it in half and then done 2 lengths end to end, and then the other braid I broke up into more lengths so that the colors would overlap in more regular increments throughout the spin, and so you end up with kind of striping. And I really love how the hand spun turned out, and I'm really liking how it's knitting up in this pattern. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. So it alternates between bands of just plain stockinette, and then you have this lace pattern, and then they are separated by a row of purl bumps. Now, of course, and it's a triangular shape, so I'm increasing along the center spine and then along the outer edge. Now, I'm outgrowing, as you can see, my needles here. And you can also see that the stripes are getting thinner as the shawl progresses, which is what you would expect. So this one, it's not a difficult lace pattern, but it's not one I really have completely memorized. So this is the kind of project I try and sit down if I can and do one lace section all at once if I can. Not always possible, but I do keep track. I have a little row counter on here, and it's only, both the sections are both 8 rows each, so I certainly can keep track of where I am, but it's one that I need to look at the pattern every time. Mostly once I know the lace repeat for the row, that's easy. It's the stitches before and after along the edge and along the center that I have to make sure I'm doing the right way. But yeah, loving how that's coming out. And then once I finished Cameron's plain socks, I cast on a new pair. They, pardon me, they're also knit from a Fiber Nymph Dye Works product. A few years ago, it was part of the Lepidoptera Club. Lepidoptera is a reference to butterflies and moths, which I don't think I would have known if I hadn't been part of the club and been introduced to that word. But I have the Luna Moth colorway that I'm working on. So the yarn, this is the Traveler base, which I think, just gonna see if I should have my label in here. I know I do, there it is. It's an 80-20 superwash merino nylon, and it's a sport weight yarn. So it's a 5-stripe colorway, and then the yarn also came with 2 mini skeins. So this one is called I Spot Gold, and then this brown is called Outline Brown. So as you can see, I've used it for the cuff and the heel. I think this is a 56 stitch sock, if I'm remembering correctly. And you can see I'm doing a traditional heel flap and gusset. I'm now on the foot on this one. And then this one I guess they're about the same place now that I look at them. Yeah, they're both right up to the brown stripe here. So they definitely work up faster than a fingering weight sock. And I had some travel time, not just this past weekend, the weekend before. So I got quite a bit done then. So when I was making up the project page for this and pulling out this yarn, I realized I have 3 other colorways from the Lepidoptera Yarn and Fiber Club. There were 2 editions of it, so you had 3 skeins or braids of fiber each edition of the club, the installment. I don't know if maybe that's the right word. Anyway, I still have 3 more to knit up, club colorways. Actually, that's not true. I have 2 Lepidoptera ones and 1 bird one. That's what it was. It was a backyard bird club, something like that. So I have, I think it's ruby-throated hummingbird, and then I have a couple of Lepidoptera ones. So I'm planning, boy, if I could speak, that would be very helpful. I am planning to, I'm making a point of knitting those all up this year, and that will help towards also the Fiber Nymph Dye Works component in this year's Fiber Nymph Dye Works Make Along, which is called the Keep It Simple Mal. And like Make Alongs of Lisa's in past years, you can kind of create your own make along. So for me, part of my challenge is going to be to knit up all of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Club colorways this year into socks. Speaking of which, I won a prize for Q1 of the club this year. So that was a nice surprise to hear my name announced on her podcast. And so I chose several patterns to knit up, including, oh, how's this for a segue? Including the one I'm going to show you now. I didn't actually plan that, but here we go. This is another project I am doing for the Make Along. I had planned this year, I wanted to knit up the advent that I had received last December from Yarn Inc. And so I found this pattern called the Countdown Cardie. Sorry, it's black and white because it's cheaper to print, but you can really see how the idea of the colors fading into each other. So the cardigan is designed for either a DK weight or 2 fingering weight strands held double, which is what I am doing. And the construction, it's knit sideways from the sleeve all the way in to the center. And then when you knit the 2, you join them in the center back. So I have opted to knit both sides concurrently. And I started with the day 24 color because I liked that end of the spectrum better than the beginning of the colors, which will then be mostly in my center back, so I won't see them. It's not that I don't like them, I just prefer the pinky tones of the later colors. I'm gonna put a picture in here. This is my advent, and it also came with a day 25 skein, which I'm going to use for the bands. Now, the pattern does have you doing cuffs also in the contrast color, but both in the sample and then some that I saw knit up, this color just seemed, because it was light, it seemed out of place on the sleeve. It almost makes the sleeve look shorter. And then I was looking at some that were knit up on Ravelry, some projects, and I think I saw one with a dark cuff and then a light sleeve. And again, it just felt disjointed. And so I decided, I had enough yarn, I decided to begin the cuff with the mini skeins. So, these look very funny at the moment because I have I have finished the sleeves and I am currently working on the body. So hang on, I'm gonna get rid of these extra needles. I'm working on 2 needles now. I've got my stitch stoppers on one end. So here's the sleeve. And it has a 2x2 rib, but I opted to do a 2x2 garter rib instead, just for fun. And then you knit your sleeve, and then I'm not sure if the light will show you. There's like a faux seam here. Just a row of knit. And the idea is you knit the sleeve inside out. So you're doing knitting the whole sleeve, and then you turn the sleeve inside out for the rest of the cardigan. So this is how it looks in stockinette. You can see all my ends woven in there. But I really do like the way the colors fade so nicely, more subtly in the reverse stockinette. So this is the first color. It's very similar to the second, and I'm also in a section here where some of these colors are very similar to each other. So it's a very subtle fade at this point. very clever design. So you do your sleeve, and then you cast on your body stitches. Now it looks short, but actually when they're stretched out properly, it's like the perfect length. I'm using my Jethro cardigan as a guide. It is basically the same shape, same size, and this is gonna be just fine. The length, it just looks kind of short here because it's bunched up on needles. But so you knit your sleeve, and then you turn your sleeve inside out. You start working back and forth instead of round and round, and you cast on your stitches for your body. You knit back up, you knit around your sleeve, and then you pick up stitches on the cast on edge for the body, and then you have this body. This is like the side seam here. So as you work, you are basically starting at your hem, working all the way down to your back hem, and then back and forth, creating your shoulder seam. And you actually have a, see if it'll show up there. I think you can see that. You have a slipped stitch that goes along the top of your shoulder, and you also do shaping so that you'll end up with a slanted shoulder, so it will sit nicely. And then at some point you leave the front stitches on hold. You finish knitting your back, and then you pick up all the way around and knit your bands. So it's really fun. It's just knitting and purling at this point, just paying attention to the faux seam here and paying attention to the increases along the shoulders, and then also at the bottom, whoops, losing a stitch there. At the bottom, there's like a faux rib created with knits and purls. 2 rows of knit, 2 rows of purls. You get this faux rib along the bottom of the cardigan. So this, I think I started this on Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. And this has just been dominating my interest. So this one, I am currently waiting for the color that's on this sleeve. So I do have both sleeves. This one is 1 row further along than this one. So once I'm finished this, I will do this. So I did agonize a little bit over just how much color to use of each skein. And so me being me, I did swatch, and actually I have right on gauge, both row and stitch gauge, which is unusual for me. And I also cast on, when you're doing the back to front rows like this, it's an average of about 200 stitches for my size. So I cast on 200 stitches and I just knit them back and forth, and discovered I could get about 800 stitches for each side, left and right, for each color. I could do that and still have enough left over to do some scrappy socks, because I really like to do scrappy socks with my leftover Advent yarn. And I was able to use that number to figure out that I figured out a way to use all 24 colors. And so basically, now that I'm on that back and forth section, I'm doing, I can get 4 rows out of each color. So this is, like I said, we're in a place where now there are several colors that are very similar to each other, so it's not a really distinct line here. But I can do 4 rows back and forth for the shoulders. And then once I split off for just doing the back, I'll do about 5 rows of each color, and that will give me, I think it ends up with 5 all across the back, including that center where I'm going to join the final color. So I think it's going to look really cool. And it's just very potato chippy, because I just can't wait to see how the next color looks, and the next color looks, and the next color looks. So I anticipate that I will be spending a lot of time on that project for the next little while, as long as it keeps my interest. And because it's just knitting and there's not a lot to keep track of, it's something I could easily knit while watching TV. And I don't know if I shouldn't say if I've ever, but certainly I know a lot of people knit 2 strands of fingering together to make a DK. If I've done it, I don't remember it, but I really do like the fabric that it's giving me. This yarn is really nice to work with. It's nice and squishy. And I don't know if that's partly because I do have 2 strands together. But another thing I really like is because the yarn, it's a semi-solid, so there are variations in it. And then because you are holding 2 strands of yarn together, you're not getting pooling. The strands blend, so quite often I'll find I'm working with a lighter and a darker one together, so that really helps the colors blend too. So really nice, kind of a watercolor look to it. So super stoked about that project. Sip of tea is probably lukewarm again. Yes, it is. A sure sign that I'm talking a lot. I have some spinning. So I think last time I chatted with you, I was working on this spin. This is some merino silk and mohair from Useful Creations. Whoops. You've heard me talk about this company a lot. Jude is a local dyer and part of the Spinners and Weavers Guild, and I bought my spinning wheel right there from her. I guess it's coming up, is it 2 years or 3 years? 2 years, I think. I can't remember, it's 2 or 3 years. 2, I think. Could be wrong. Anyway, I split the braid lengthwise into 3 sections. I spun 2 end to end in the same direction, and then I spun the 3rd one in the opposite direction so that I would get barber pole. So this came up as a fingering weight, and I'm thinking about doing a Musselburgh hat out of this. I think that'll look nice. And then with my leftovers, I practiced my chain plying. I had, after my first bobbin ran out, I just chain plied the next 2 concurrently, or one after another, I should say, and actually pretty happy with it. So it's kind of stripy. When you chain ply, you keep the colors together, so you end up with long sections of the same color, where if you ply different sections together, like a 3-ply, you end up with barber poling, where different colors ply up with different colors. So happy with that. And then last episode I recorded after I had come back from Fibers West, and I showed you a combo spin pack that I had bought from Crafty Jack's Boutique, which is she's a local-ish dyer, probably an hour, 45 minutes, an hour's drive from where I live. And I wanted to try a combo spin. So combo spins, when you take, there's different ways you can do it, but it's taking different braids of fiber that usually you try to find something that they have a color or two in common with each other. You spin them, and you can, what I did is I just spun each braid separately, plied the 3 together. But you can also take bits from each braid, spin them on different bobbins, and then ply them all together. And I'm sure there are other ways to do combo spins, but this one, like I said, I just took the 3 different braids. I have a picture I'll show you here what the braids looked like, and then what the separate bobbins looked like. And then this is how it looks all plied together. So even though there's 3 different braids, it still feels like a cohesive skein of yarn. And I don't know, like I don't know if there's any section in here that is the same. And what I mean is, I don't know if there are any parts where the same 3 colors are plied together. Because there's just all sorts of different combinations, like that. It's very different from that. Is different again from that, and yet it all kind of works. So my plan with this yarn is to knit a Traveler Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I believe her original sample was done in hand spun, and I just think that'll be fun to see the different stripes knit up. The Traveler Cowl has sections of, well, it's kind of similar to the ribbing, the faux ribbing that I showed you on here, in that you have sections of a couple rows, 2 or 3 or 4 rows of knit interspersed with the purl sides. As best as I can tell, I think that's all it basically is. And so it creates this ridged pattern going across the cowl. So I think that's going to be fun. And then I also, with the leftovers, did a chain ply. You can see in this one especially the striping effect that you get with plying the same lengths together. So these are 2 different bobbins, 2 different braids. I just, when I finished the first, when the first bobbin ran out, oops, I ended my 3-ply yarn, and then I just started off of 1 bobbin. I chain plied what was left and then added in the 2nd bobbin. I think there's a place here, maybe that's it. Yeah, that's where the 2 kind of joined up. So when I go to use it, I'll just cut that out. It was just easier to keep it going. So anyway, lots of fun. I am not sure what my next spinning project is going to be. I might do something for socks, or I might not. I don't know. I haven't decided. I've been so focused on this sweater, I haven't really even thought about my next spin project. But in addition to the Traveler Cowl, I do plan to start a new pair of socks. I don't have a picture, because I didn't print off the whole pattern. I'll put it here. These are the Tits Up Socks by Nancy Wheeler. I bought this pattern a few years ago. Every April, for the last 4 or 5 years, she has designed a boob-inspired pattern and has donated proceeds, a certain amount of the proceeds, to like a breast cancer foundation. And she recently released a new pattern, something about, I think it's the knit slip socks. I'll put the name down here, and I did purchase it, but I've had the Tits Up, which was her original sock, and it was inspired by the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That was an expression they used on the show. Like, tits up was kind of like, okay, let's go get them. You know, shoulders back, tits up, let's go do our best kind of thing. And I had cast these on a few years ago in a different yarn. The yarn was not allowing the pattern to show through, and so have been planning for a few years to try them again with this yarn combination. So I figured April was a good time to do it. My mom's a breast cancer survivor, and so that's an area of health near and dear to my heart. So I am using Lily and Pine, which I don't think they're dyeing anymore. This is the Day Lily sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend in the Wild Rose colorway. Actually, it's also a great time of year because we're going to be heading up to our vacation property, family vacation property, in a couple of weeks. And often around like the mid to late May, the wild roses are blooming. So maybe I'll be working on these then. Never thought of it till just now, but anyway, and I'll use this for, I think there's a little bit, I'll have shown you a picture by now. I think there's a little bit on the cuff and then heels and toes maybe. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, this came together. So that's going on the needles soon. And look what a perfect project bag I have it in. I made this a few years ago. When I saw it in my bin of bags, I thought, oh, I know which one. I was looking for a bag for this. It's like, oh, perfect. So that's getting tucked in there. Just like I thought this bag was perfect for my Luna Moth socks. There are birds, but also butterflies. I know they're not the same thing, but kind of similar colors. And anyway, that's what I'm keeping my Luna Moth socks in. Okay, acquisitions. I only have one thing that I've bought since I chatted with you last, and that is this batt of fiber. Last month for our Spinners and Weavers Guild, we had Lynn Anderson come and chat to us. If you live in the Lower Mainland, you may remember Knitopia Yarn Shop. She had it in Langley City for a while, and then also in White Rock. And then she moved up to the interior to Tappan, BC, and she now has some sheep. Shropshire or Shropshire, not sure how you say it, sheep. So she came to our last Spinners and Weavers Guild meeting and gave us a chat about raising sheep and about the sheep industry or the wool industry in BC. And then she also brought some goodies for sale. She had been at Fibers West, and so she brought what she had left, I'm assuming. And this is a batt. It's called Totally Textured Randomly Fabulous Roving. That's a tongue twister. Shropshire based, approximately 100 grams. And for one of my challenges for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Make Along, I am going to try spinning from a batt because I've never done that. And I may even combine it with trying to spin woolen. Yes, woolen. So there's different methods of spinning. Spinning worsted, you are spinning kind of a tight twist, and like this would be a woolen woolens or worsted spin, and then you ply them together. Woolen, if you're familiar with like Brooklyn tweed, Shelter, and is it Loft, the other one? Those are woolen spun yarns. They're loftier, they're fluffier, they're not as tightly spun, and they're apparently quite warm because that loftiness traps the air, traps the heat. So I think people often will spin woolen from a batt like this as opposed to combed top, which is what I've spun this stuff with. And so I may do two new things at once. I'm more or less just deciding that this is going to be just some wool to play with. I'm not expecting great things, but you never know. I'm gonna watch some videos, and Lynn actually showed me a little bit. She was spinning off a batt, and I asked her about how you go about spinning off a batt, and she gave me a little lesson. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a go. As the Q2 challenge for the make along is, I can't remember what the actual title of it is, but it's about trying new things. And so this was trying a combo spin for the first time, and then that'll be spinning a batt and potentially spinning woolen, which I think is a long draw, because I know you when you're spinning, you're pulling your quite a ways from you and then pinching it off to control the twist. It's about all I know. And I know those of you who aren't spinners, it's probably like going completely over your head, as it used to for me when I used to watch podcasts when I wasn't a spinner. But hopefully you learned something, because that really got me interested in spinning when I would hear about it from other people. All right, that is it for all the yarny goodness. I'm gonna go take another quick break, and I will come back and chat with you a little bit about what's been going on in my life since we last spoke. So see you again in a second. As I was writing show notes in preparation for this episode earlier today, I needed to pull out my calendar to refresh my memory on just what's occurred between the last time I recorded a month ago and now. And it turns out quite a bit. I won't go into great detail, but during spring break, we had our granddaughter come and stay overnight with us. So that was fun. We had our family over for Easter dinner on Easter Sunday, and our daughter-in-law's parents also joined us. So we've gotten to know her mom fairly well, but we haven't seen her dad as often, so it was nice to have a chance to get to know him a little bit better too. Let's see, we went over to Vancouver Island the following weekend and interred my mother-in-law's ashes. So it was her birthday yesterday, and a year ago yesterday we were celebrating her 100th birthday, and then she passed away just a few weeks later. It's hard to be too sad because she did live such a long life, but it was nice to just kind of bring some closure to that. And her ashes, well, we were nice beautiful little cemetery, and there were wild turkeys in the cemetery. I had never seen wild turkeys that close up before, so that was kind of cool. And the weather cooperated. We had just a teeny bit of rain, and then later in the day it just opened up and poured. So Mother Nature definitely cooperated. Let's see, what else? We've been getting our yard and backyard, front garden, prepping that for spring. So it's nice to sort of have it ready for the outdoor season. And we've enjoyed sitting out there a number of times now. Sunday, we invited our next door neighbor over for happy hour and sat outside. It was very nice. We went to my husband's company's trade show. So they run a trade show every April. It lasts 2 days. And up until last year, my husband's always been working it. And so because of his change in positions at work, he's no longer required to attend. And so last year I went with him for the first time, and he went for the first time as just an observer, not a employee per se. And I've gotten to know various suppliers and customers and staff over the years through various events. So it was really cool once again this year to catch up with people that I don't get to see very often, and Cameron always enjoys it for that reason too. Our son Matt went along with us, and he used to work for the company a number of years ago, so he also knew some of the staff and suppliers and such. We've now moved from curling to slow pitch, which is a form of baseball or softball. We literally finished curling the one Monday night, and a week later it was ball season, and that first game was freezing. I don't think we've ever been so cold at a game before. There was just a wind coming off the mountains, and it was a late game. It was an 8 o'clock game. And even though I was really bundled for it and had some hot tea, it was still really cold. And then the next week, really, really nice and warm. The next week, cold and windy again. And then last night, it was really nice again. We had a very nice weekend here. We actually played golf on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. And we actually played golf for free. So Cameron had booked our tee time on Saturday, and they were setting us up with another, like 2 other players. When it's busy, they like to have 4 teeing off at a time. And so when we got there and Cameron went to pay, they told us it had been prepaid through, I think through some kind of golf app, which it hadn't. And Cameron kept insisting, no, I have not paid. I phoned yesterday, and after like 3 times, he's just like, the guy just kept insisting it was paid. So we got a free round of golf out of it. And we were golfing with a dad and his 10-year-old son, and that was the son's first round of golf ever. He's been practicing, he's been out to the driving range, but he's never actually played a round. And that was quite enjoyable. It reminded us of when, especially our younger son, he used to like to go golfing at that same course. It was funny because during the summers they would have like a twilight hours deal with a round of golf and beef on a bun for X number of dollars. Really inexpensive. And I think a lot of times he just went for the food. And they used to have a sign outside their golf course that said, best food in town. And I remember driving past it one time with Colin, and he goes, they really do have the best food in town. It's like, no, they don't, but I'm glad you think so. Anyway, yeah, it kind of brought back memories. And man, this kid did really well. He had a lot of good drives, and he's just so relaxed. So he's not worrying about anything, and lasted the whole 18 holes. Although about halfway through, he asked, "When do we get to eat and drink? I'm hungry and I'm thirsty." So his dad said, "Well, I have water, but you're gonna have to wait till after to have something to eat." But no, he was really good. I actually was really happy with my golf. I didn't golf at all last year, and was actually hitting the ball really well. So I think I just felt really relaxed, and I think that makes a big difference. What else? We've been kind of had to do taxes. I know in the US your tax due date is April 15th. Ours here in Canada is April 30th. So we got those done last week. Everything is sent off, and glad to have that done for another year. And then I had a bit of an adventure yesterday. Or misadventure is probably a better way of putting it. I was eating breakfast. I was eating a bagel, and then I could feel something weird in my mouth. I thought I had it was a sesame seed bagel, and I thought maybe there's something rock hard sesame seed or something. Just things didn't feel right. And then I realized I had broken off a piece of one of my teeth. So it's like the bottom one here, and a big chip came off the back of it, so that the top part of my tooth was only about half as thick as it was supposed to be. So thankfully I was able to get into the dentist yesterday afternoon, and they built it up and almost back to normal. My tooth's still a little bit shorter than the one beside it, but other than that, it's basically good as new. So, phew, I could just picture the other part breaking, and then I would have to get it replaced or something. So that worked out well. All right, I think that is everything except for something good. And my something good is two things. First thing is, starting in May, Cameron is going down to working 4 days a week. So he's going to be taking Fridays off. So every weekend will be a long weekend. And then if it's a long weekend, we'll have an extra long weekend without taking a day of holidays. Mind you, it means he's only getting paid for 4 days a week, but it's a good further step towards retirement. And then he has set a retirement date, and it is next March 18th, which happens to be my birthday. But he will have had, as of January, 35 years at his current company, and then March 18th will be 45 years that he has been in the industry. He worked for a different company in the same industry for 10 years before the company he works for now. And he was talking about that, and I said, well, I think that's the perfect date for you to retire. And so now he's got that in mind, and I'm sure it's going to go by so fast. So I'm looking forward to those long weekends and having more time together and just kind of easing into the whole retirement phase. So that is definitely something good. All right, if you're still with me, I just saw got a low battery message that's just popped up on my screen. Let me just close it here because I can't see myself. Yes, it's still recording. Yes, it is. So that is definitely a sign that it's time to say goodbye. So I thank you as always for watching, for all your comments and your participation in the Ravelry group. I really love interacting with you. So thanks for taking the time to reach out. I'm not sure when I'm going to be back. I will see you when I see you, but hopefully it won't be another month before we chat again. So take care until we meet again, and yeah, thanks for watching once again. Bye.